We begin with slide 1, our title slide. Today we are studying The Happy Prince by Oscar Wilde. We will learn key literary terms and writing skills, then use them to understand the story. In this lesson, I will read some of what is on each slide and then add a short note about where to look for that idea in the story without giving away any surprises. Slide 2 tells you we are starting with literary devices. Slide 3, simile. A simile is a type of figurative language that compares two things using like or as. For example, her smile was as bright as the sun, or she ran like a cheetah. A simile compares two different things to create a vivid image. It helps the reader understand something in a new or creative way. It is not meant to be taken literally. Her smile is not actually the sun. Where to look in The Happy Prince. Pay attention to descriptions of the statue and the city. Listen for like or as comparisons when the author wants you to picture light, weather, or movement. Slide 4, imagery. Imagery is descriptive language that creates vivid pictures by appealing to the five senses, which are sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. For example, the warm cookies smelled like vanilla and melted chocolate. Imagery helps the reader imagine the scene by using the five senses. It makes writing feel real and vivid. Where to look. Notice how the story describes the statue's appearance, the wind, and small rooms in the city. If you can see it, hear it, or feel it in your mind, that is imagery. Slide 5, symbolism. Symbolism is when an object, color, person, or action stands for a bigger idea or meaning. For example, a dove can symbolize peace, and a skull can symbolize danger or death. Symbolism helps the reader understand deeper meanings behind simple things. It adds layers to the story and makes it more meaningful. Where to look. Watch for objects on the statue and what they might represent, and watch for small actions that seem simple but point to bigger values. Slide 6, juxtaposition. Juxtaposition is when a writer puts two things side by side to show how different they are. For example, a rich man feasting while a beggar waits at the gate. Juxtaposition shows contrast to make a point and helps the reader notice something important or surprising. Where to look. Notice how the author places beauty next to hardship. Look at scenes where something glittering appears near people who are struggling. Slide 7, situational irony. Situational irony is when what actually happens is the opposite of what you would expect. For example, a fire station burns down. It creates a surprising twist between expectation and reality. Writers use situational irony to add humor, tension, or insight. Where to look. Think about a character's title or reputation compared to what you learn about their feelings and choices. Ask yourself, what would I expect and what actually happens instead? Slide 8 signals that we are moving on to elements of literature. Slide 9, third person omniscient. Third person omniscient is a point of view where the narrator is outside the story and knows the thoughts and feelings of all the characters. For example, she walked into the room feeling nervous. Across the room, he watched her, hoping she would not notice his worry. Third person omniscient shows what many characters are thinking and feeling. It gives the reader a big picture view of the whole story world. Where to look. Notice that we are told what more than one character feels or thinks. Pay attention when the narrator moves from the statue to the bird and then to people in the city. Slide 10, direct characterization. Direct characterization is when the author tells the reader exactly what a character is like. For example, Lena was generous and brave, always putting others first. The author gives clear traits using direct statements. This helps readers quickly understand a character without guessing. Where to look. Listen for sentences that plainly tell you a character's personality, such as kind, selfish, proud, or humble. Slide 11, indirect characterization. Indirect characterization is when the author shows what a character is like through their actions, words, and choices. For example, Lena stepped between the bully and her friend, her voice shaking but steady. If you want to pick on someone, try me instead. Instead of saying Lena was brave, the story shows her standing up to a bully. Readers must use clues to figure out the character's traits. This builds a deeper, more personal understanding of the character. Where to look. In this story, notice what the bird chooses to do and notice what the statue asks for. Actions reveal true character. Slide 12, dynamic character. A dynamic character changes in important ways during the story, such as attitude, understanding, or behavior. For example, a shy student who learns to stand up for others and becomes more confident. The change usually happens because of events in the plot. Dynamic characters help show the story's theme and growth. Where to look, track who changes from the beginning to the end. Pay attention to changes in priorities, courage, or what a character decides matters most. Slide 13, theme. Theme is the main message or lesson from the story. Examples include helping others, sacrifice, standing up for what is right, and honesty is the best policy. Theme is what the author wants you to think about or remember. It is a deeper meaning that connects to real life. For example, imagine a person choosing to give money to a homeless shelter instead of using the money to go on vacation. That choice shows values and priorities. Where to look. Ask, what does this story say is truly important? Watch how the story measures worth, not by looks, but by the good that is done. Slide 16 tells you we are moving on to elements of writing. Slide 15, quotation. A quotation is exact words taken from a story or text, enclosed in quotation marks. For example, "It is your garden now." A quote shows exactly what a character or narrator says. Quoting the story helps prove your answer. Where to look. When you answer questions, quoting is one way you can use a source. It is best to embed them or make them part of your sentence. This will take practice. Slide 16, claim. A claim is a clear, arguable statement that answers the question or makes a point you will prove. For example, teen vaping is on the decline because of stronger school policies. A strong claim drives everything that follows and sets the target for your evidence. It helps readers know exactly what you are trying to prove. Slide 17, evidence. Evidence is information that supports a claim. It can be facts, statistics, quotes, or observations. For example, according to the CDC, teen vaping dropped 11% last year. Good evidence gives reliable support for your point. Readers decide whether to trust you based on the evidence you give. Where to look. Use lines from the story that clearly show a device or a character choice. Choose parts that match your claim. Slide 18, textual evidence. Textual evidence is quoted or paraphrased words from the text you are analyzing with a line number, a page number, or a parenthetical citation when needed. For example, Jefferson states, "All men are created equal." Textual evidence shows the precise spot in the text that backs your claim and lets readers check the source. Where to look. When you quote something, copy a line, write it exactly, and include the page number in your in-text citations. If you paraphrase, keep the meaning accurate and still include an in-text citation. Slide 19, commentary. Commentary is you explaining how and why your evidence supports your claim or answer. For example, after quoting the story, you might say, "This shows that the prince values kindness more than riches." Commentary connects your ideas. It shows your thinking. It helps readers understand your point. Commentary is also called reasoning or analysis. Where to look. After you quote, do not assume it is obvious. Spell it out. Say how the device or action in the quote reveals a theme in the story. To finish up, how to use these in The Happy Prince. Here's your process. First, read for imagery and symbolism. Second, notice point of view and how we learn about characters, both directly and indirectly. Third, look for contrasts that create juxtaposition and moments that might be situational irony. Finally, build a claim about theme, choose a short quotation as textual evidence, and explain it with clear commentary. Where to look. Focus on scenes where the statue observes the city, moments when the bird makes decisions, and small details that seem beautiful but point to something deeper.